Moving on from that sad, depressing story to another sad, depressing story, because at the end of last weekend, NASCAR has announced some new competition rules for the 2025 Cup Series season. Now, starting with the damaged vehicle policy, the DVP, damaged cars that are I can't see the script. There we go. Damaged cars that are driven or towed to the garage won't automatically be out of the race anymore. Now, damaged cars that are driven or towed to the garage will now be allowed to make repairs and return to the race. However, any team that chooses to repair a damaged car on pit road will still be on the 7-minute DVP clock. And if they exceed that amount of time, the team will be forced to continue working in the garage. They then can return to the race. NASCAR has also created new rules in reaction to drivers rear right hooking another competitor and Kyle Larson's decision to prioritize the Indianapolis 500 over the Coca-Cola 600. Now, if a driver receives a playoff waiver after a suspension or skipping a race, NASCAR will take away their ability to earn playoff points during the regular season. So drivers falling under this category would have no more than 2,000 points after the playoff reset. Now, NASCAR officials have also added a new rule called the Open Exception. What's this? The Open Exemption Provisional, the OEP, which is my experience, an old age pensioner, but still, OEP, which is similar to the promoter's choice used in some short track racing series to guarantee certain drivers a spot in the field. If NASCAR approves an OEP, they'll be allowed to compete in the race, but they wouldn't be eligible to score any points, prize money, or playoff eligibility. Now, this rule will only be in effect when the entry list exceeds 40 cars, and teams must seek NASCAR's approval 90 days before the race occurs. Since the OEP rule was in the new charter agreement, Trackhouse Racing was able to gain approval for its Project 91 entry for the Daytona 500, which means Helio Castroneves is guaranteed to compete in the Great American Race. If Castroneves makes the race on time or races his way through in the duels, we'll only see 40 drivers in the Daytona 500. If he doesn't, the field will expand from 40 to 41, with the provisional being recognised, a graphic courtesy there of Trackhouse Racing. What a load of rubbish. But that being able to rejoin the race guarantee someone's going to come back out and take out the guy who kicked him out of the race to begin with. It's a disaster waiting to happen. Yes. Hello, Bubba Wallace as well, who could use, Joey Logano would do it as well. It's just, ugh. So here's a 3-parter question for you all. And Matt, we're going to start with you. 1, do you agree with the changes to the DVP rules? 2, is NASCAR sending a strong message by taking away playoff points? 3, do you think it's fair to guarantee a spot in the Daytona 500 for Helio Castroneves?
Much to unpack here. DVP, yes, we need to keep the cars in the race as much as we can. The flat tires scenario, Adam says he absolutely loves the new DVP rule. It's about time that something had changed. Excuse me. The flat tire scenario has been a contentious issue, hasn't it, for the last couple of years, especially since the I suppose we can probably not call it the new car anymore, as we're about to go into its 3rd season. Logano at Pocono last year, or even the year before, when he had flat tires, he wasn't allowed to be pushed back. He was out of the race. We had Ryan Blaney, even though he had broken steering at Watkins Glen on the first lap, couldn't steer the car. But if he got towed back, they perhaps would have been able to fix it. But he couldn't get a tow, so he was out of the race. So I kind of like that. They need to keep as many cars in with a chance of being in the race, as long as they're obviously safe to be out there on the racetrack, especially at races like Daytona and Talladega, as we've seen it over the years. Taking away the playoff points for suspension should have been in the rule book, or something of that nature should have been in the rule book from the beginning, which would have scuppered Chase Elliott in 23. Just trying to remember where we are in the calendar as I talk. And then, of course, the Helio thing, which is, I guess, the headline of this whole segment. We've seen so many more names come, haven't we, over the last couple of years? Your Kimi Räikkönens, Jenson Button, Shane Van Gisbergen, of course, on his way to becoming a full-time driver. Ricky Taylor, although that was a substitute ride, but still, and a couple of others. Joey Hand. Don't allow these guys to come and then not allow them to get in. Do you know what I mean? It'd be silly if they were sat on the sidelines, but I'm a bit torn on this. If I know it's Helio and that, it's a big deal, but if Carlos Munoz decided that he wanted to come and race at Las Vegas in a few weeks' time, would that be okay? What about Carlos Huertas? He's a former IndyCar Series race winner. I'm just trying to think of names out of the back of my head. I don't know where does it start and stop with.
Yes,
would be my. Okay.
Stops there.
I think that has stopped. So I think you need to stop on it too.
I'm on fire.
I don't know where it starts and ends on this, but I guess Helio, big deal. To do the 500, it's Helio, so we'll probably end up winning the whole bleeping thing because it's Helio. So we'll have to see. Joe says, so in theory, if Justin in the 40 car wrecks Helio and Helio is the 41st car as a loophole. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? If he gets spun out if Helio's in a position where he's one place ahead of someone on the last lap of a duel and they've lost the draft, say, and they need to get ahead, and that's very grey, isn't it, that one?
Boy, there's no manipulating there.
No, we don't like race
manipulation.
Waiting
to happen.
No, okay.
Just Joe's comment there, past Maldonado at Cota.
So here's the thing, Mike Seneca. Here's the thing. In principle, I understand why they did this, and I don't have an enormous problem with it. If Helio Castroneves wants to do the Daytona 500, if Fernando Alonso or Kimi Räikkönen, just throw out any names, want to come over and try this, it's obviously a huge story, and NASCAR doesn't want them to come over, fail to qualify, especially if they fail to qualify in some fluky way, and not have that storyline and that extra audience. So I get that point of it. We need more clarity, though. Like you said, who defines it as a world-class driver? Because part of the definition was world-class driver. Who defines that? Also, apparently, Jimmy Johnson's not eligible for it because he's a NASCAR regular, even though he's not a regular anymore. So we need clarification on how it's defined. Also, what happens if multiple come over? What happens if Helio says, yeah, I really like this, and then he says, I want to do Coda, and then someone else, again, name a name, Matt, comes over and says, Kamui Kobayashi comes over and says, yes, I want to do Coda too. Are we giving two?
Montoya.
Are we giving 2 OEPs? Yep, Montoya. Are we giving 3? So we need more clarity on that too. What really, though, bothers me about this, and you guys, I think Kobe's going to touch on it in a moment, and I apologize for jumping on that. What really bothers me about it, though, is Helio's in with no prior stock car experience outside of IROC 20 years ago, but Mike Wallace is not allowed. Really? Mike Wallace, who's been doing this for ever. Yeah, he hasn't driven this car. Okay. That's why we have testing. Or that's why we once had testing. That's why we have practice sessions. Oh, wait. That's why we used to have plenty of practice sessions. I don't see how you can say that. I don't see how you can say Helio's in no matter what. Mike Wallace can't even try to make it in. That really rubs me the wrong way. It really did. But by the way, the DVP is, Lord. we sit here, Matt, you know this. You hear me say it 26 times to start the season. Every point matters.
Mhm.
But then someone's going to hit the wall and they're out of the race. We got to have these guys being able to compete for every point, even if they're 67 laps down. Come out and try to get extra points. Someone's calling me. This always happens when I'm on with you guys. How does that always happen?
It's Alan
It's Fox.
Bestwick.
They're calling it. Yeah.
Anyway.
They want a word.
Yeah. So we need to have these guys go out for every point. If we're going to say for 26 weeks that every point matters, then yeah, we need to have them go out if they can still go out, get the car repaired, and go for these points. So the DVP, thank goodness that we've done that. Thank goodness we've also taken playoff points away for any waiver. Lord, the waiver is just a mess. But yeah, the OEP needs some clarity to it.
They
We've been
what
on
they
here for
could
an
have
hour and
done, and
5.
obviously haven't. Sorry, Josh. What they could have done with the DVP, and obviously haven't. And 24 hours ago, I was watching Sandown 500 from September, so I know that the 17 car of Will Davidson had to make it back out of the pit lane with enough time to complete a certain percentage of the race to get points. They could have used that in some way. So if you have an accident on lap 7 and you're quite badly damaged, you've got enough time to get out and then still do a percentage of the, like the 107% rule in Formula 1 qualifying back in the day.
Yeah.
Let's say you have to do 65% of the race to be classified.
Yeah.
They do this in IMSA as well. I'm pretty certain.
F1's is 90.
Yeah. So to get classified for points, if you happen to finish in a point scoring position, of course in NASCAR every point counts and every position is a point.
And every point is a position, and maximum point gain possible is 59.
We've had far too much fun on this show tonight. They could have done something if they were wanting to have cars. This sounds silly. If they were wanting to have cars not finish the race, then they could have implemented that some kind of cutoff.
Well, we get so the teams apparently when all of this started, the teams were like, we want this in place so we don't have to push around $1 million crash car. I'm sorry, it's a professional sport. You're going like all the cost cutting mess. I get it. We can't be spending $5 gajillion a year, but it's a professional sport. It's going to cost money to compete in a motorsport series.
Do you know, I've literally got tears around the eyes because this has been so much fun. I have to tell you what, in the hour and 7 minutes we've been on here, the most interesting thing out of all of this is that we've learned that Matthew Owens stars a landline in 2025. That's the thing that shocked me the most.
I'm so beyond my time, I'm behind it.
I'm
resetting the trend is what he's doing.
Boy, if that's not wise words from the grid.
Wise words from Walnut Cove.
I'm losing it tonight. My goodness me. We haven't even got to Hots and Knots yet.
Yes, you did. You're quite correct.
Yes. And he's also doing
nothing on a big track,
ARCA, isn't he?
No,
that was nothing on a big track. In SRX, by the way. So,
but he's doing ARCA alongside Catherine Legg, isn't he?
Yeah.
That's going to be a lot of fun.
Best of luck with that.
Adam putting his hand up for Brock Feeney in a Red Bull sponsored NASCAR Camaro could happen one day. Will Brown did.
Considered a world-class driver? Is that considered a world-class driver by the powers that be at NASCAR?
I'm waiting for Danny Rick, who it makes so much sense for him to go over there and do it.
More on perhaps one-off NASCAR drivers in the Red Bull family when we get to Hots and Knots later, perhaps.
Right. Well, we're going to say goodbye to Matthew Owens now in the program. Not permanently. He's just going. We haven't shot him, don't we? He's perfectly fine. We've come to the end of that segment of programming. Matthew, how have you found it on the show tonight?
It's been quite entertaining, hasn't it? It's been extremely entertaining. I've got to talk about broadcasters. That's very nice. One day One day we're just going to come up here and we're going to say, hey, how about this broadcaster? You like him or no? No, I hate him. I'm not a Tony Romo fan. You're kidding. He's too loud.
I thought I've made my position on Danica quite clear.
Very clear. Very clear.
There's two people I don't like in this world, Danica Patrick and Mohammed Ben Sulayem, and there's more on him coming in Hots on Nuts later.
Dear. Thank you for having me. Thank you. It was a joy as always, and Happy New Year on January 15th.
Happy New Year to you as well. Thanks, mate, for coming on the show.